Okay, today we want to talk about circadian rhythms and specifically what they are and why they are so important. So let's jump right in. We spend a lot of time thinking about and talking about and trying to understand what we eat, what we should not eat, and it's incredibly important. Anything that we put into our body is going to trigger a major response from our digestive system. And it's incredibly important for what kind of nutrients we're getting. Are we building our body up, or are we breaking it down? Now, as important as that is, another important thing to think about, and we've also talked about how we should eat and chewing our food and not guzzling our liquids, especially when they're nutrient-packed juices and smoothies. But what about when we eat? Is that important? And the answer to that is yes, it's very important. And so circadian rhythms, what they are basically, the word circadian means around the day. So basically from sunrise to sunset. And there are three stages or different functions that are going on in your body where your body is strongest in this particular cycle. And those three cycles are appropriation, and that is when your body is taking in food, eating and digesting, assimilating, where it's taking that food that you've eaten and breaking down the nutrients and using those nutrients and proteins and macronutrients for various repair or normal functioning of the body. And then there's elimination. Now these three cycles are each dominant in 8-hour time periods during the day. So let's talk about the first one and our favorite one, which is appropriation. And that's, again, eating and digestion. Now, again, this is when the cycle for the body being the strongest, or when it's the most opportune time for us to eat and digest, is from noon until 8 p.m. And again, these are not like exact times, but in general, during the heart of the day, the middle of the day, is when we want to be doing our eating and digesting. That's when our digestion is the strongest, and you'll see why. So as the day goes on and we get closer to 8 p.m. or whenever the sun is starting to set, end of the day, obviously that's going to be a lot later in the summer and a lot earlier in the winter. That's why these time frames aren't always, they're not an exact science, but honoring them and honoring our eating cycle in the heart of the day can benefit our health. And here's why. As the day gets on and the sun starts to set, the long rays of the sun trigger optic nerves in our eyes to release melatonin. Now, melatonin is our rest and sleep hormone, and that signals the body to start to shut down. Now, remember, we've been hammering home the idea that our digestive system requires the most amount of energy for our body, especially when we have these like complicated meals that have lots of different types of ingredients in them and macronutrients, and we've talked about that heavy food combined. Now, at the end of the day, when the body is signaling to shut down, our digestive system is shutting it down as well. Now, just because our body is shutting down in that respect, and ultimately we're going to lose consciousness, i.e. go to sleep, when we go to sleep, our body is only, the level of activity only drops by about 10%. So our body is still incredibly active, but it just isn't active and looking to be active to digest food. And we'll talk about this more when we get to fasting and intermittent fasting, but it's very important by cutting down our meals and our eating by 8 o'clock or even earlier if we can. We're allowing digestion to finish its job for the day and the stage of assimilation to begin. Now, if we eat late at night past 8 o'clock, when our body is going to get busy to do other things that it needs to do while we're sleeping, we're going to disrupt that next process. And what's going to happen, digestion is now kind of shut down for the day. It's done. The shop is closed. The processing factory, the mill, is closed for the day, or at least wants to be closed, and it's not looking to work overtime. When we eat late at night and then we go right to sleep, we're trying to initiate the digestive system, and we're going to leave a lot of undigested food in our guts, in our stomachs, and take away the energy that's needed for our body to do all of the other things it wants to do while we're asleep. And we'll get to that in a second. Now, this food that's undigested as we eat and then pass out or crash, is going to cause inflammation. It's going to cause digestive issues. And inflammation is the hallmark of cancer. Inflammation begins at it's the earliest stage of disease, and especially cancer, but all chronic disease starts with, to some degree, with inflammation. And this inflammation can be, it's one thing if it's just a one-off, but when it's chronic, when it's all the time, these are the seeds of disease that we really need to prevent if we want to be healthy, which again, health is being free from injury or illness. So very important not to be eating late at night and honoring this appropriation phase, again, from around noon, very late morning to evening. Late afternoon, evening is when we want to be doing all our eating. Look at the Europeans have it right with their siestas. They have their big meals during the day. They close down, they eat, they rest, they walk, they talk, and then maybe they have a little something at night or something in the morning, but their biggest meal is in the middle of the day. Makes a lot of sense. Now, studies have shown that people who eat dinner at least 2 hours before bedtime have a 20% reduction in both prostate and breast cancer, two of the leading cancers affecting male and female adults in America today. So we're really honoring this will do a great amount for our health, and having that digestive system be at rest or not being heavily worked for most of the day. If we just honor this between kind of this 8-hour period, that leaves 16 hours for the body to be able to do other things. So very important. The next phase or function or circadian rhythm is called assimilation, and that's when we're using what we've ingested, hopefully nutritious food that we've ingested during the day. Now, when we're asleep, as I mentioned, the body's busy doing lots of things. It's growing fingernails, it's healing cuts, it's growing hair, it's making blood, it's creating digestive enzymes, it's doing a lot of these things. Now that the physical body is at rest and the mind is shut down, it doesn't have to, use all of the signals and messages that it gets from our sensors, our five senses. We're not moving a lot, so it's not required to be attending to those needs. It can attend to a lot of the things that it needs to do that we don't even know about, that we're not even conscious of, but that it does on a daily basis. And again, that's usually while we're at rest and while we're at sleep, and hopefully not digesting food. So allowing the body to do it and merely getting out of the way, it will allow that. And that dominant cycle is going to be from 8 p.m., right, or sometime early at night through 4 a.m. until the very early morning. Hopefully we're asleep for a lot of that period of time, and we don't have this big meal sitting in our guts for the body to deal with, because it'll deal with it later. It's not strongest digestion time, and it's going to sit there, it's going to ferment, it's going to cause problems in our guts. So that's what's going on between, say, 8 p.m. and 4 a.m. Now, the last circadian rhythm is called elimination, and this one is incredibly important as well. Now, this is when, we've ingested food, the body has used what it needs, and has determined what it doesn't need, and it's going to send that through for elimination, usually through our large intestines and whatnot. So, why is this so important that we don't eat during this cycle? Now, the body is looking to eliminate what it doesn't need. Now, if we're going to hit the body with another huge meal, i.e. a big breakfast, we're going to take away the energy necessary for that to happen, so that the body can, again, attend to a big meal that it needs to break down, it needs to process, it needs to see if there's something wrong with it, it needs to take out the good and the bad, and we've just delivered another big project for the digestive system to take care of at a time when it's trying to eliminate what it doesn't need. Now, it's kind of like literally backing up the body's process here. Instead of being able to eliminate the food that we don't need and get rid of the waste, we have added more to the problem. and especially if that's another poorly combined, big, heavy meal. Now you can see how we start to gain weight, how the system literally backs up. We get backed up. We get obstructed, and all of that is held in our digestive system. So we're continuing on really with gut health, and I wanted to take a time out from specific gut health to talk about the circadian rhythms, because it really does tie in, and it will tie in later when we talk about fasting and the importance of fasting. But again, when we're eating these big meals, and I love, there's a book by Harvey and Marilyn Diamond called Fit for Life. It's one of the first books I read that got me started on my true healthy journey, and it's one I recommend everyone to read, because it's just so basic, it's so simple, it's so much of it I tried on myself, and it worked, and with tremendous success. But they say breakfast is indeed the most important meal of the day. It's the most important meal of the day to skip. Now that may sound like heresy to most of us, because we've been raised to believe that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. My personal experience and what I suggest of many of our clients is to try lightening up on the big meals and trying a juice or a smoothie or just a good plate of fruit early in the morning, because that high water amount will actually help flush. It will help the body in its elimination cycle rather than get in the way of that cycle. So we will facilitate the elimination by adding high water, which will help transport this waste out of our system. And if we're having a fresh juice filled with fruits and vegetables or some good fruit, remember fruit is mostly water, that will come packed with a lot of fiber. Fiber will attach to toxins in the body and cholesterol and escort it out of the system. Fiber doesn't get digested. Fiber doesn't add calories. Fiber just merely facilitates, among other things, the elimination of waste. So by getting rid of the big heavy meal, we've all had breakfast where we wake up, we feel great, we have this big breakfast, and then we want to go back to bed. That's not what's intended by eating food. We're supposed to eat food for energy and nourishment, and that's not what's happening. Well, especially when we're having processed meats like bacon and sausage and all this garbage that's filled with like toxic crap that's taking away from our health. And then having it in the morning is a double whammy. So trying to eliminate the big meal and having more high water content food so that the body can eliminate and start fresh and be in a place where it's now ready for the next meal. Hopefully that meal is packed with a lot of good whole foods that with nutrients that the body needs. Late morning, early afternoon, and during that heart of the day, so that we can start that process all over again. Now, and stop backing the body up. Now, when we're eating late at night and we're eating really early in the morning, we're backing the body up. The body doesn't even have time to digest and go through a full process of digesting the last meal, because another one's coming down the pike. This is why we gain weight. This is why we get bloated. We have gas. The body will start to store this food that it has broken down into fat in different areas of the body, and we all know where those areas are. They're in our love handles. They're in our stomachs. They're in our midsection. They're in our butts. They're in our thighs. That's away from the vital organs of the body. Our body is very smart. It stores fat away from vital organs, and that's why it gets stored in those places. Once we see that happening, we know that something's wrong. We're not allowing our body to fully process the food that we've already eaten, and in part by honoring the circadian rhythms again around the day, and allowing late at night the body to be free to do other things, which is normally healing, repairing, and reproducing key cells, and also avoiding big meals and heavy food in the morning so that we can eliminate what we don't need and detoxify. And when we detoxify, the body's dumping toxins into the blood for elimination. That's again why we want to keep that elimination cycle between 4 a.m. and noon, as close to noon as possible, as free from eating heavy meals as possible, so we can clean out. So that is the topic for today, circadian rhythms. When we eat is very important, and how, again, we are good to our digestive system and how we make it as easy as possible for our digestive system. It will go an incredibly long way in detoxing and recovering and rebuilding our health and then maintaining it. So this challenge for today is merely to trying to stop eating late at night, if you're hungry or craving something, have some water or have a high water content piece of fruit at night as your snack, and then in the morning, trying to avoid. Try it for a couple days. Try it for a couple weeks. Try it for one day. Having something that's very light on the digestive system early in the morning, skipping the bagel and the omelet and the bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich, or the cereal with milk, and just trying a nice thick fresh smoothie or some extra water or extra green juice or whatnot, or fruit juice or fruit and green juice combined, and see how you feel, and see how light you start to feel when you give your body the chance to eliminate a lot of that food and a lot of the backup. Once we free up energy for the digestive system, the body uses that energy immediately to clean out, to clean up, to detox, and it will get to those meals that it's been storing as fat, and it will start to get rid of it. It will start to clean it out. We're going to talk about that in a whole separate section on fasting and intermittent fasting. Very, very important, but that's coming up. But we want to just introduce this concept of circadian rhythms and cycles of the day, and how honoring them can vastly improve our health immediately. That's the beauty of it. It can start right away. You don't need to do anything else other than get out of the way, which is, more often than not, all we need to do. So that's the topic for today. You've got the challenge. Day 15, we're already halfway through, so we'll be back tomorrow with another topic. We're going to continue on with gut health, and we're going to keep hammering away at gut health and how to do it and how to repair it and how to treat our guts, because that is, again, the center, the epicenter of where most disease emanates from. So be back tomorrow, guys. Have a great day. Any questions, please lob them into the group. We're here for you. Any specific questions you might have, anything you'd like us to go over in more detail, anything you'd like us to go over again, or on a one-on-one basis, use the group. It's why we're here. It's free. We're at your service 24/7. All right. Have a great night.